On today's podcast, I have my good friend Matt Bontrager on, who's my partner over at TrueBooks. He has been with me the last 3 years, helping me become more efficient in my taxes, and we talk about what you can do this year in 2022 to make sure that you are staying on track with your financial goals. It doesn't happen just by, thinking about this right at the end of the year or, when you go to file in April. It starts in January in order to have a great year. So we go over what that's like. We also talk about what it's like for Matt when he was starting TrueBooks with me, how, it was kind of a time in his life when it was his first endeavor being an entrepreneur, what it was like just going on faith, what it was like quitting his job with a kid. I think a lot of people can relate to that story who are trying to make sure that they can provide for their family and start a new endeavor. So I think you're going to get a lot of value out of that. We also talk about time management and how you need to understand what you are actually worth. It is a really good podcast. And also too, if you haven't heard, I just launched The Wealthy Way. You can go get access to my Wealth Builder Academy, the Wealthy Way Planner, and our Discord community completely for free at wealthyway.com. So before you listen to this podcast, go sign up for The Wealthy Way. And now, let's jump into it. Are you looking to grow your real estate investing business? My company, Future Flipper, can help. We've taught hundreds of people all over the country how to flip, wholesale, and buy rental properties. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your investing journey. Whether you're trying to get your first deal or scale your company, Future Flipper can help. We have courses, coaching, and events for all levels of investors. So if you want to take the next step, go to futureflipper.com and book a free consultation to see how we can best help you. Once again, that's futureflipper.com. If you've ever wanted to invest with me on my real estate deals, it's now possible. At Pineda Capital, we're purchasing value-add real estate all across the country. This includes multifamily, commercial, and land development. The best part is, with my network, social media presence, and marketing strategies, we're able to get the very best deals that others don't have access to. You can join in with me on those deals if you're an accredited investor. If you want to learn more, head over to pinedacapital.com to see our current opportunities. Once again, that's pinedacapital.com. Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where our mission is to invest.
I only expect to make money in things that I understand.
Innovate.
It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past.
And inspire. I am much more likely to hit my goal just due to putting it out there.
You're now rocking with the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Pineda Show. Today, we actually have our first ever repeat guest. I hope you feel special, dude. This is a big occasion. And I've got my partner here from TrueBooks, Matt Bontrager. What up, dude?
What's up, man?
Well, I didn't plan to have you as the first repeat guest, let me just say. But it is the start of the year, and so I felt like it'd be a good time to talk about taxes and how people should approach the year. Because, for most people, they're like scrambling at the end of the year, or they're scrambling in April when they go to file. But if you want to do the right things, you need to start like right now, here in January.
Very true, yeah. What's going on right now is a lot of people are trying to cram their numbers together and get things together because they know the year is coming to a close. But and so they're going to have a pretty rude awakening come April because they have no idea where their taxes, are going to be. So as far as their bill and what's going on, so.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're listening to this, we're filming this like on the last days of December, but by the time you listen to this, it'll already be the new year. But yeah, dude, before we get into what are some things people should be doing for taxes to start the year, give people a quick recap of like what we've been able to do as a company the last couple of years.
Yeah, so we kicked off TrueBooks the beginning of 2020. So 2020 was our first year as a startup. Was a good year for us. For the first 6 months or so, I kind of did all the work myself, and then we grew to a team pretty quickly of about 4 by the end of year 1. Now, in our second year, revenue has about 6 times what our first year was, and we're at a team of about 8 of us now. So the growth has been insane, and we're excited for a big, big year 3.
Yeah. One thing I've realized growing a tax company versus, my other companies is you need totally different people, because like my other companies, and this because you're on the inside of all of them, seeing what's happening. It's a lot easier to train people who have maybe just general skill sets that are, they're hustlers, they're smart, they can figure things out. It's like, look, I can teach you to do this. Or, you're a sales guy, right? Like, okay, we can teach you how to sell houses. We can teach you how to sell education, or even tax, right? But to get the back end operations for TrueBooks is probably the hardest thing that I've encountered, because you need legit CPAs, you need bookkeepers, you need these people that, are very skilled. And I think we've gone through hiring different people who are just like fresh out of college and stuff, and they've been tough to work with.
Yes, and so that's why from the approach that, right, I think that I've tried to keep from the beginning is hiring top down, right? Hiring people that we know don't need to be babysat. They can sort of take the job and run with it. And so it's a specialized skill. Most people go to school for it, and it isn't something you can just kind of rush through like, hey, in 90 days, I'm going to teach you how to prepare taxes and strategize with people. So definitely finding the right team has been the most challenging part. But once you get that in place, it's really you're off and running.
Yeah. And tell me, we had this talk with one of my other guests about like the difference between a CPA and an EA.
Yeah, so a CPA is a certified public accountant. So you're licensed with the state agency, and the reason that they do that is because you are allowed to give an opinion on somebody's financial statements. A lot of people get that term misconstrued. So an EA is an enrolled agent, a CPA is a certified public accountant. EA, you are licensed with the IRS, and it's essentially you've taken, I think it's 3 tests, and you have some basic level of understanding of tax and how the IRS tax system works. A CPA, certified public accountant, you have to have a college education, essentially, almost the equivalent of a master's degree, 150 credits, and you have to pass 4 exams. And not only that, but you have to pass all 4 within 18 months or else they start to lapse.
Right.
And the biggest thing is when you're a CPA, you are essentially trusted by the public to give an opinion on someone's financial statements. So what you'll find is certain lenders will come to a CPA or come to a client and say, hey, we need these audited. And what that is a CPA can look at a set of financials, perform some tests, and say, hey, I give an opinion that these are fairly and immaterial of any known errors and they're accurate. And so to do that, that's why you kind of hold this I don't know the word I'm looking for, but that's why you're so heavily regulated, right? We need 40 hours of, continuing education every year, minimum of 80 across 2 years. And you do need that sort of college education and sort of background to be able to even take the test because you're sort of held to that standard. It's the gold standard in college if you're an accountant is to shoot for your CPA exams.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, and look, I'm not a CPA or anything close to it, but to me, it's like when I look at EA, it's kind of like becoming a realtor. It's like you don't need a college degree to become a realtor. You don't need.
It's a quicker process for sure.
You can get, whatever. Is it a license, your EA? You can get your EA license really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're definitely different. And I think that's what makes us pretty unique is I think almost all of our people are CPAs
or sitting for the CPA exam. So some of the newer people that we've hired are eligible to sit for the exam. So they've done those sort of requirements.
Yeah.
And one thing to notice too is an EA is tax. A CPA can be tax or audit, right? So back to that whole commenting on financial statements, right? That's where I started. I didn't even start in tax. I started tax later on in my career, but
Yeah. And just some background for anybody who has never heard Matt or our first podcast. By the way, if you want to kind of hear the full background on Matt, definitely check out the first podcast. We've done, a bunch of YouTube videos together about tax and stuff. But quick rundown of your career so far.
So born and raised in Las Vegas. I'm a licensed CPA. I got my degree here at UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I went to go work for the Big Four. It's kind of, again, the gold standard. You work for one of the largest accounting firms in the world out of college. It's where I earned my stripes. Worked at some smaller regional firms. Always stayed in public accounting, which is servicing, a variety of clients, not just working for like MGM or Caesars Entertainment. And then met you through Instagram, said, hey, you need a bookkeeper. I can do that. And here we are.
Yeah, it's funny because at the time I wasn't even really like big on social media, like nothing like today. But, I was pretty known here in Vegas. And I remember I was looking for a new accountant because I'd gone through like 3 in the last 3 years, and they all just could not get it done for various reasons. One of my accountants wanted me to like pay more. He's like, nah, dude, like this isn't right. Like you should be paying more. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why couldn't I write this off? And like, what are we talking? I'm not going to get into politics or whatever he believed, but I was like, dude, we are not on the same page. And so that ended that. And I remember putting a post out on the store. I'm like, man, I need a bookkeeper first and foremost because I just like have no idea what's actually happening. Like, I know I'm making money because I still have money and, I can see that, yeah, we're netting, good money on paper. I can see the profits and I have a kind of a feel for our expenses, but in the end, I did not know what was happening every month and I wasn't able to make the right decisions, on a weekly or a monthly basis just because I didn't know the numbers. And so eventually I put a poll out, or not a poll, but a story. And I said, hey, if anybody can be our bookkeeper, let me know. Because we're not keeping books. Like we're keeping a form of books, which is like what many people probably keep.
Spreadsheet.
A spreadsheet. We're not keeping I didn't have QuickBooks. I didn't have a report coming to me every month of exactly what we spent, what we made, etc. So anyways, I put this story out. Matt responds and I'm like, man, this kid, dude, young punk, man. And I was like, I just had this bias, the opposite of ageism. I was like, I need someone old.
Yeah.
Somebody
Gray
experienced.
hair.
Yeah, somebody who's been through the trenches. And he was like, give me a shot. Like, I'll do it. And I didn't expect him to actually do my tax return. I just wanted a bookkeeper. I needed a bean counter. And he came in, he interviewed. He was still working for, I think, one of those big four. And Noel really liked him. And Noel and him hit it off and talked. And even to this day, they hit it off. But now, he started out just rectifying our books and getting them squared away. Reconciling.
And, organizing.
Yeah. And, eventually he did a really good job. And I was like, dude, you want to take a stab at just doing the return? And he did. And I paid a lot less than I was expecting. And it was great. And then from there, we did that for like a year. Mm-hmm. And then I remember we were at one of our parties for my brokerage, Forever Home Realty. Yep. This was like in the end of 2019.
2019, Q3 or 4.
Yeah, I think it was Q3 party. And I'm like, it was either me or you, but
you were getting an office, and I was like, man, let's talk about me getting an office in there. And then you were like, why don't we just start a company?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, dude, I know everyone else wants this too. Yeah. And it was weird because with most of the other businesses I start, I had at that point had started them alone for the most part, but also too, I've always been a risk taker. I'm like, freaking let's do it. Like whatever happens, happens. We'll figure it out. Whereas you by trade and by nature are risk averse. You're an accountant, which is good.
Conservative.
Yeah. And it's good to have balance. But I remember you were like, oh yeah. Like that'd be good. And then, I'm like, he ain't going to do it. Like just in my mind, I was like, yeah, he's not going to leave like his salary job and the comfort and all that. But I was like, dude, I think you're going to make a lot more money if you own a company. And I think we're going to get a lot of clients pretty quick. And sure enough, and also too, we kind of did give you a salary because just managing my own stuff. So that was kind of like a little
supplement.
bit. Yeah, it was a little bit of a safety net. But anyways, we go into it after a couple of months. We, come up with all of the naming and the website and all this stuff and the game plan. And here we are 2 years later, dude.
Growth is huge.
I just got to ask you, okay, this is on camera, as somebody who's, risk averse and leaving that cushy salary job to go start your own business. Like, what was it like? And did you think it would be where it is today?
I didn't think it would be where it is this quick because I've seen other firms up and start, in this valley in the same town. So I know that the growth for other firms doesn't happen this fast. We'll probably do what a normal firm would do in 8 to 10 years in 3 or 4. So very quick. It wasn't as scary as I thought because I had the work. You were already big enough at that point that you had quite a bit of work. So it did help supplement the income that I had coming in. But I was definitely pretty nervous, right? I had my first child at that time. He was a little, like 6 months maybe. And I don't know, it was something that I had thought about a lot, but I guess when I took it like on a day by day, week by week, I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. Like, as we were progressing along, it's funny. I was just telling somebody yesterday though, that if I had to go back and lost it all, no matter what, I would make 40,000 on my own before I went back and made 150 with like a corporation. because having your own schedule and not having to answer to somebody necessarily all the time, and like now during COVID and like having to stay home and things like that with the kids and like having a family, as you know, like there's things that happen all the time. And so I would make way less money to be able to have my own schedule and have my own business before I went back and worked for big corporate.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because I did see that in you of like having an entrepreneurial spirit. Whereas, there's most people don't have that. They're like, dude, how much can you pay me? Like, what am I supposed to do? Whereas you're like, no, like I'm serious. Like I'll quit and like I'll do this. And I'm like, okay, are you willing to take a risk? Because you're going to take a pay cut at least initially. And that's kind of what always happens with most people that I start with is like, look, if you're a really talented person, you believe in this, then take a pay cut.
Mm-hmm. You gotta have skin in the game.
Yeah, like
really like nothing to work for.
Yeah, let's see what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always like that. There are some people that immediately started making a lot more money than they were making before. But as these businesses were starting, that's how it was because they have no history of success.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if somebody jumps into one of the companies, there's a lot more history and, they can jump into a situation that's already going to crush.
Yeah, some groundwork that has been laid. Yeah, but at the time it was, I don't know. It wasn't as scary as I thought, but I was definitely concerned about it. And like you had said, I mean, I had a pretty good position and a good path I was on, but looking back now, I'm like, man, I would never choose that corporate life over kind of running your own thing.
How do you think it's been working with me in our dynamic where, you're like, I need to know step by step, like what we're going to do. And this was a hard thing for us to do initially because you wanted to know step by step. I'm like, bro,
the details.
It's going to work. Just freaking have faith.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And, we didn't have a track record, but I'm like, dude, I can promise you, like, we're going to crush in like this first year. It's setting the foundation. Like I knew that going into it and we're going to figure things out along the way. And I'm trying to understand the tax business and what clients want and, who are the people we need. Like for me, I always said 2020 was like the first year of training and understanding. And then 2021, I was going to make the moves that we needed to make to really scale it. And
we did change services, did things like that, which worked. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we needed a year to understand what customers wanted and what like was beneficial for us as well. Mm-hmm. So, but it's funny because you wanted every step of the way, even though there was no way to really give it. And I'm just like, dude, you have to go on faith. There's no other, we can't just figure it out from the beginning. It doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. It's right. It's that whole visionary versus like an integrator or somebody within the details. You would say something and I'd always want this like step 1 through 10 plan of exactly how it's going to play out. And that kind of comes back to, right, like the balance of the visionary versus like, let's just call it an integrator. Even if, right, I may come to you once a month and it's for 15 minutes, those 15 minutes that you kind of take to evaluate something, and even if it's just high level of, oh, we need to do this or sort of head in this direction or switch things this way, and there's no details to it, then it's like someone like me or Noel that can go back to the drawing board and kind of implement what you had mentioned. But without those 15 minutes and sort of that vision, that you can end up on a bad path, right? Or just
stay on the same path that
exactly,
is just
or continue something that's broken, right? And so it was hard up front because I wasn't getting what I was expecting. But now that the expectation is like, okay, I'm going to go talk to Ryan. He's going to give me 15 minutes of maybe something that's high level, but I have to go back and digest, but it's going to make sense. Now I understand it. But at the beginning, you could say it was a little frustrating because I'm like, wait, what? Like we would leave and I'd be like, wait, dude, that's not enough time. That's not enough details. But now it makes sense for sure. And it's something that we need. It's what all the companies need.
Yeah. For sure. Because I think this has always been my philosophy. And this is also why a lot of my content is so short and to the point, is like the more you get wrapped up in the details, the more or the less action you end up taking. Because like I just think people overthink everything and they just get caught up in the what ifs and the, man, what if it doesn't happen like this? And like, what are we going to do in this situation? It's like, dude, cross that situation when it comes. It may never happen.
Like making up problems in your head.
And everyone does it. I'm just like, dude, why would we worry about a problem that doesn't exist? Like, that's so stupid.
Exactly, right? And that's what I've kind of seen now. We've kind of just hit the ground running and dealt with problems as they've come up, and it couldn't be any better. The
Yeah.
growth has still been insane.
Yeah, and every business has problems. That's why we get paid. You have problems internally, you have problems with client, you have problems with the economy, the shutdown, like whatever, dude. Like if you think that you can plan for every problem, if you could plan for COVID and all the stimulus money and the inflation, then you're a genie, dude.
Yeah.
Like you can just predict any. I don't even know if a genie's the right word. You're a freaking psychic.
Psychic would be, yeah.
You're a magician. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I just I wanted to tell that story because I think it's important for anyone listening to this who's starting a business who's like, oh man, I need the whole blueprint. I need to know how it's going to play out. It's like, dude, you're never gonna know.
Literally taking a step forward, no matter what the step is I would say better than sitting there contemplating what could go wrong or what you should do. If you have some sort of sense of direction, keep pushing forward.
Yeah, you just need like the vision of where
What's
you
that?
want to be.
Yeah, fail forward. Is that what they say?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm reading a book right now that's really good. I think it's How Will You Measure Your Life? That's the title. And they talk about how 93% of businesses that, stay in business and are successful, you are using a different strategy than the initial strategy that they started with. And so they may have had their business plan at the startup and then they, go try and execute that plan. And then all of a sudden they figure out this is a bad plan, right? But by going through that bad plan, they realize what's a good plan. And then they become successful, but only because they tried the initial plan. And the ones that go out of business are the ones who try that initial plan. They realize it's not good, but they stay with it because they're like, well, this is the plan. Like, let's just keep throwing more money at the plan. And they're not willing to be flexible or adapt.
And what's crazy is, like, let's take that example. Let's say a visionary comes up with plan A, integrator starts to put in these processes and steps to go on that plan, and a year later they evaluate, and the visionary again's like, no, wrong plan.
Yep.
But maybe the integrator can't call it. And so, again, that 10, 15 minutes that the visionary takes is like, no, this was a bad move. Then, that's why it does take that balance of both people. Because if you're so in the details in the day-to-day, you can't sometimes step out to see the big picture. You can't. You're too detailed. You're too in the details.
And I think, too, a lot of people would be so attached. They're like, dude, I just
Yes.
put a year
Yeah.
into this plan, and it's not like, dude, we got to still.
It's like their baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
And I'm like,
They're
so,
like, I can't abort this.
Yeah.
I can't. Well, yes, but I can't get,
yeah. And I look at it, I'm like, nah, this plan sucks. Like, it's not working.
Got it. Hot route, pivot.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I said from the beginning with TrueBooks, 2020, like, let's just see what happens. I don't know how this is going to play out. Like, I know we're going to be successful. We will figure it out. We've always figured it out in every business, but I just don't know how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
And, now we have a much better, idea of what works, what doesn't work, but we're still adapting. We're still doing new things, now, like with buying these buildings with Pineda Capital, we're learning a whole lot more about, how that side of it works with working with all these accredited investors and, these cost segregations and these big buildings. Like, it's a whole new ballgame, and we're just constantly learning and applying new things.
Always.
Yeah.
What you got to do, I think, to stay relevant now.
Yeah, man, the world's moving quick. You got to be adapting. I remember, it's funny. I had a conversation with Noel yesterday, and I was just kind of reflecting, right? Like, in order to figure out what you want to do going forward, it requires you to reflect on all the decisions you've made and what you've learned from those decisions. And so, I thought about what's made us successful, and kind of like my game plans for each specific year. So, like, I can vividly remember in 2018, my first full year in business. Up to that point, I played baseball. And business was a side hustle for me. I was making a lot of money for a side hustle, but in the end, I was playing baseball more than I was doing business. And 2018 was the first year I was full-time, and I had this goal. I said, the goal this year is to become one of the biggest, if not the biggest, flipper in Las Vegas. Like, I want to do over 100 flips. I need everyone to know who I am because it's going to make, things way easier. We're going to raise more money. People are going to want to work with me. We're going to get more deals sent to us because everyone knows who we are. And I set out and I accomplished that goal. And that was my first time ever building like complexity in a business, hiring people, spending money on marketing, having positions and like managing, 60 flips at once. Like, there was nothing that could prepare me for what that took. I just had to go through it and learn it, right? And I learned that after going through that, there was a lot of errors I was making. And it wasn't until 2019 when, I go into that year that we actually had a down year from 2018. And that was when I first reached out to you. And I'm like, man, we're having a down year. I need to figure out why.
And you see my numbers.
Yeah, I need to know my numbers because I'm not tracking them. Like, I know 2018 I did great, but I just didn't know why or how it was happening. And had I had my numbers, I would have known I was actually getting very lucky, because what was happening in 2018 was there was so much appreciation, just like there is today. And I was going over budget on every single project. The timelines were taking forever, but I was still making money. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, we're making money. Like, I'm running this business so good. But if I would have known truly what was happening, I would have saw all the cracks in my business, and it would have prevented me from a world of hurt in 2019 where, between all the bad deals I got, I lost $500,000 on just bad deals alone. Now, granted, still made money. It was fine, but I had to pay a $500,000 mistake in 2019. And 2019 for me was the year of actually building a true business around what I had already created, like making systems, processes, having books, like doing the right things. So 2019, I do that, right? 2020, go into the year. We now are starting TrueBooks. The rest of the businesses, we're structuring them way better, right? We hire COOs. We understand how the visionary and the integrator work, and everything's going full force. And then I make this decision in March to just be like, you know what? I'm going to be an influencer. And it was a decision that I don't think people understood why I was going to go do it in the companies, because, and like you said, you were frustrated. You were like, dude, I need more time. And I'm like, I don't have time. Like, I'm busy filming and doing what I think is the right move. And it was just a move that I felt like making because I just thought the world was headed that way. And I thought there was a big opening with the lockdown that, dude, everyone's going to watch social media. I think everyone's going to consume content, and I think this is the best possible move I can make for these businesses. And it was right. Thankfully, it was a smart move. But once again, 2020, that was not my plan going into it, right? There was no plans for me to go become a YouTuber or a TikToker. I didn't even know what TikTok was. Yeah, I was just like, hey, we got to call an audible. I think this is going to be way smarter for all the businesses. And so, we did it. And 2020 was just all about content and, building the following. And it worked out great, right? So then we go into 2021 and we're game planning. And I'm like, okay, the following's there. We're going to continue doing this. Obviously, it works. We want to grow it. But now let's think about how we can really optimize all of the traffic we're getting from these videos and utilize them for the businesses, right? And that was when I started thinking about how social media and business really could start optimizing. And it's done that tremendously this year in 2021. We've built out, without getting too technical, different funnels, different sales teams, different, CRMs, and just how we process all of the views and traffic we're getting. I mean, between all the channels this year, I'll probably get, I don't know the exact number, but I would say over 100 million views between TikTok, Reels, YouTube, podcast, everything. I had 1 month on TikTok where we got 24 million views. And it's like, dude, that's a lot of eyeballs on, people are on this and its potential revenue for businesses, right? So 2021 was all about figuring out how to monetize eyeballs and make content even better. So now Noelle reaches out to me because, we're year-end planning. She's like, what's the goal for 2022? And I'm like, well, I don't know if I should say it because, I don't need everyone taking my goals. But, as I've looked at it, for me anyways, it's obviously going to be continuing doing what we're doing, right? Scaling the businesses, making great content, all that stuff. But those are not my priorities. My priorities now in 2022 are creating IP and data with what we do. So really, IP would be all of the softwares and different things. So I've hired a full-on tech team, and I'm paying a lot of money every month. You know, last year, or I guess this year in 2021, I spent a lot of money, 40 grand a month on content. Well, now I'm going to do the same thing with tech. I'm going to spend another 30, 40 grand a month on a tech team, building out softwares for all my businesses and different things that I know are going to make us more efficient and make the businesses and the companies more valuable in the long run, and creating this IP that we can either use internally or eventually sell it to other businesses, license it. You know, imagine all the IP we could create for TrueBooks that other tax firms need because they don't have these softwares and they don't know how to create them. Home run offer, feature flipper, content people. Like, there's so much software that I know I could make that, you know, we just haven't had the time or the priorities to do it. But now I do, because 2022 is about that. And, you know, the very first thing we've created is the Wealthy Way Planner, right? That took a long time to develop, but that's a software that no one else has. It doesn't exist in the world. And I could charge for it and whatever, but I'm just going to give it away for free. And I just, you know, the Wealthy Way is a totally different thing where it's about, you know, a passion project to help people. And it's also about basically creating tools and resources that people are just going to want to share with each other because they're so great. And, you know, eventually, just like with any tech company, if we get a lot of users, great. Like, we can figure out what to do after that. Like, because now we have a ton of users, a ton of data. I don't even know how we would use it, to be quite honest. Like, that's a visionary, but it's just like, everyone talks about that, right? Like, data is king with all business. And it's like, man, if I could get 1 million users on the Wealthy Way because it's so good, and, you know, I can help that many people, and in turn, it makes that, you know, so valuable or whatever. And even if it never became valuable, I don't even care. Like, for me, I made it because it was something that I needed. I needed a planner that didn't exist, so I'm going to create it for me, and I'm going to give it away, and everyone can use it, and it's great. But there could be a byproduct of it down the road where people are like, dude, you got like this really valuable software that I don't even know what they would want to do with it. But
yeah.
So that's my goal for 2022 for anyone listening to this, is like really create IP, you know, data and these tech things that are going to change the world. That's like my goal.
Which it works too, because if you think about it, it's almost like kind of Ray Dalio and principles. It's like your life principles, like you said, passion project of kind of what got you to where you are now.
Right. Yeah. And that's really the way it came about was throughout these podcasts and different things that I've done, people have taken bits and pieces. So like, dude, how do you only work, 30 hours a week? How do you spend all this time on your health and your family and all these things? And I'm like, well, it's pretty simple. And I've explained bits and pieces. I was like, man, I need to just like put that all into one thing where anybody could just go through the course and watch it. And so I was like, I'm just going to create the course. And so I did, and it's free. And by the way, if you're like, dude, where is it at? If you go to wealthyway.com, you can get the course for free. You can get the planner for free. You can get our Discord community for free. Like literally, I'm just giving everything away for free. That's the whole goal of the Wealthy Way. Like I literally want to change lives and get as many people on as possible. And then down the road, whatever happens with it happens. Like I don't really even care. But, that's it. Have you ever wanted to invest in real estate, but you didn't have the time to find deals yourself? That's where Fundrise comes in. Fundrise is a crowdfunding platform that has transacted over $5 billion in real estate and has over 150,000 active investors. While many funds, like my own, require accredited investors, Fundrise allows anyone to invest with as little as $500. If you'd like to learn more, check out fundrise.com. Once again, that's fundrise.com. Are you looking to find off-market real estate deals? One of the best tools my team uses is Batch Leads. With Batch Leads, you're able to pull data, manage lists, and send text messages. On top of that, you can get nationwide access to the MLS to get pictures and comps. My team has used Batch Leads to get some of our best deals, so I know it works. If you want to start today, you can get half off your first month by going to batchleads.io and using the promo code Ryan. Once again, that's batchleads.io, promo code Ryan for half off your first month. Now, back to the show.
That's the plan for now, right? Like, you don't have to foresee.
I don't need to know the plan. Yeah, like a year from now, I don't know how big it could be, but
You could get approached tomorrow. Okay, Ryan, I really dig this Wealthy Way thing. How would you like to sell the whole thing for $5 million?
I wouldn't sell it,
I
but
just want to slap my name on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Freaking Dave Ramsey's like, Ryan, the Wealthy Way is pretty cool, man. Like,
I kind of like what you're doing over here.
yeah.
That's
But
funny.
I don't know. It's kind of like it is for sure like a passion project and a tech play. You know, it's like I see a need, I know people need it, and I'm gonna create it, and whatever happens, happens. Because like with most tech companies, they don't have like a way to make money like initially, right? Like all Facebook did was basically create all this software, create this stuff, gave it all away for free. And then years later, they started to monetize it. Like they burned a ton of cash. And I can tell you, creating the Wealthy Way, I've already put 6 figures into it between hiring these developers. I've got some other things in the work that have not even been released with it yet that I'll talk about at a later time. But, you know, I've sunk 6 figures into it, and there's no plan to make money. Like there's not like this product or upsell within it that is going to go recoup that anytime soon. So it's really a long-term play for me of like, dude, I just am really passionate about it. And whatever happens within the long term, cool.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited for it.
yeah, dude. By the time everyone listens to this, it'll be out.
Should be out, yeah.
So anyways, dude, you know,
I have a quick question, bringing it back to sort of like startups and businesses and stuff, and on the boring topic of accounting, kind of how we met. Looking back at it, starting a business, right? You said you were full-time. 2018 was your first full year of it, of your business not being a side hustle.
yeah,
Most business owners, when they kick off, they're hesitant to hire an accountant or a bookkeeper because they think that they'd rather spend that money elsewhere,
Right.
on ads, wherever else. But looking back and seeing kind of how it hurt you to not have it from the jump, what would you tell business owners now as far as having that be part of their expense that they should incur for the year?
yeah. I'm the biggest preacher of data and KPIs now. Like I just talked about data with the Wealthy Way, but like data within your own business is so valuable. You know, for most people, if you're just starting out, getting a tax team is not going to cost you a lot of money because you don't have a lot going on, right? So to me, anytime you spend $1 in business, you're looking at what is this dollar going to make me? It doesn't matter whether it's spending $1 on actual marketing, which is how most people assume ROI. They're like, oh yeah, you know, if I spend $1 on marketing, then it's going to make me X, you know, hopefully quickly. But every time you spend $1 on an employee, you're thinking, how much is that employee going to make for the business, right? If I spend $1 on all this equipment for this podcast, how much do I think this could make me, you know, at the end of the day? If I spend, you know, the time or the money on getting a bigger office space, like how much more revenue will that make by being able to have more people in it and all this stuff? So you're always doing a cost analysis on every dollar you spend. If you're smart, if you're running business the right way, right? But most people aren't sure how they should spend the dollars because everyone has a very limited amount of dollars.
Especially for a startup.
Yeah. And this is why startups actually have an advantage over like well-funded companies, because well-funded companies that raise a lot of money, they burn it because they're not disciplined. They're like, oh, dude, we got our series freaking A. We just raised a couple $1 million.
Yeah.
Like we know we got B on the way. We know we got C.
Yes.
And so that's just how they operate. And, you know, for normal people like myself and anyone listening to this, it's like, dude, I got a couple $1,000 to start this, right? Well, whatever, dude, you're on your own. Like starting out, you're going to do everything yourself. But eventually you start having some success, right? You've proved your business model can make you money. Now you have to start thinking about the next level to this, right? You're not a solopreneur anymore. Now it's time to build out a team. Now it's time to either hire some people. It could be a bookkeeper, it could be an accountant. You're always going to need an accountant no matter what in business, right? It's just a matter of how much of an accountant do you want? Do you want them to just file your tax returns and you're making the decisions throughout the year? Or do you want them to work alongside with you throughout the year and help you make better decisions and make more money? And this is the conclusion I've come to, you know, after doing it for all these years, is like, I've never made more money than when you and I started working together. I started making the most amount of money I've ever made once I understood my numbers. And it's not a coincidence because I can now see, dude, this works. This gets me a return. Let's do more of this. Okay, this is not working. Let's cut this out, right? Why do we pay this person? Like, what are they doing? And you figure out how to become more efficient every day. And, it's not something that happens right away, right? Like, you hire the accountant today, you're going to be in the hole, for however many months while, you're accumulating the data and figuring things out. But once you have it and it's rolling, then it becomes an integral part of what you're doing. It's just like marketing, dude. If you market, you can't expect to make money from the marketing tomorrow. It takes months before the marketing ever pays off. So you have to be patient for anyone you're hiring, whether it be an accountant or marketing or whatever. So I think what I would tell people is trust, have faith that it is going to work. And don't think you're somehow smarter than everyone else, right? The biggest companies in the world have not just one accountant.
Teams.
They have a whole team of accountants because they know they need the numbers to operate at a high level. They know they need to make the right moves throughout the year to limit their taxes, to make more revenue, all that stuff. And I would say, too, the biggest misconception with books and accounting is like most people think about taxes as just saving money. They're like, yeah, like how much can you save me? And it's like, no, dude. If you have the right person, they can make you money.
Oh, yeah.
It's like if you're working with somebody for a full year and you guys are having meetings and you're having CFO type level, discussions, you can make better decisions on a monthly basis that are going to bring in more revenue. You're not having conversations about saving money. You're talking about how can we make more money? And yeah, saving's part of making more money. But to me, what's an easier way to grow your business? Is it to just maintain your current revenue and then figure out where you can cut expenses? Or is it to, 10x your revenue and then, yeah, you incur some more expenses and you have some more taxes, but what'd you make? You made a lot more money.
Overall, yeah. Yeah, I'd say it's like a balance between most business owners that start a business. They think that they have to have this gut feeling on certain decisions they make. And accounting sometimes can be like that, but you want hard, factual numbers to go off of.
You need the numbers to make the gut decision. That's
True.
what you need.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good way to put it too.
Because in the end, when I make these decisions on what I think is important for the coming year or the coming month or the quarter, I don't just like come out of them with thin air. I'm like, this seems like a good idea.
Yeah, true. You have data behind it.
I make informed gut decisions. I'm like, okay, I can see the trend here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm predicting that this trend is going to continue. And in fact, I'm going to throw some fuel on it because I think it's about to explode. And then,
which that's probably one of the most exciting things to say, hey, like I see the data now, and if I add here or here, then what happens after, and to track it after, and to see year over year, month over month, how things are going.
Yeah, most people they're okay. And here's the other part too. So if you don't have the numbers, you're relying fully on gut, right? You're like, I hope this works, right? Well, guess what happens? You're probably second guessing yourself a lot because you're like, I don't know if I'm right or not, because you don't. You literally don't. You're just like, you're taking a stab at it, and you may have a feel for where your business is based on the data you do have, right? The data you do have is what you see in your bank account, what you like just see in your office and all that stuff. Like that's how I operated before I met you, right? And I was pretty good. But in the end, I wasn't even close to my potential because I could not make right decision, like the best decisions. Instead of operating on, having 20% information and making a decision, I can say, well, I've got 70% of what I need to know. You'll never have 100%.
Yeah.
But okay, if I have 70%, I can at least make a pretty good decision.
For sure.
So I would just implore everyone, listening to this podcast, I don't care if you use TrueBooks or not, but you need to understand your numbers this year. Like if for me, 2022 is about data and IP and creating softwares, for you, I would say the goal is for you to basically track your numbers and to know the truth about what's happening in your business. Like there's a reason we came up with the name TrueBooks. It's to literally know the truth of what's going on in your books.
Mm-hmm.
And you will make more money if you understand the truth. Like it's not you're not doing it to save money and to you're doing it to make better decisions throughout the year to make more money. But if you don't do it throughout the year, let's just say you spend 2022 doing what you always did, right? Well, whatever happens that year, right? And then you'll come to your accountant in March or April, and it's been from this point listening to this, think about this. That will have been 16 months from the point of listening to this, right? And your accountant's going to say, "Oh man, like you did XYZ, like you should have did this." And they're like, "Why didn't you tell me that?" Well, it's like, "Fool, you didn't like take what you were supposed to do 16 months ago."
Yeah. Which you bring up a really good point, because what a lot of people look at tax people as are a transactional business. Oh, it's April. I'm going to turn in my shoebox of stuff and I'm going to get my tax return done and that's it. When in reality, and like this has kind of been our approach, right, to build TrueBooks, is you want a relationship-based transaction, right? You don't want a one and done sort of annual meeting. And so that's where we kind of stress the importance of right? This isn't someone that you come to once a year. This is someone that you meet with monthly, quarterly, whatever it is, to help analyze your numbers, stay organized. And so that's just another way to look at it is, right? It shouldn't be transactional. It's relationship-based. Like, look at, even before we had TrueBooks together, you could text me and ask me about numbers. We were emailing. We were in constant communication. I didn't just talk to you once a year.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it just comes back to, if you're running a business, then you should be doing this. If you're a W-2 employee, you got nothing going on, whatever. It is a transaction. And maybe that's where the stigma comes from. True. Is that, whatever, 80% of the world, I don't even know the number, but I would assume 80% of the world is employees, right? They're not really having a say in the taxes or the decisions in the business. Like, they just do what they do.
Taxes are simple.
Yeah. And so you could go file on TurboTax. You don't need TrueBooks. I think I've done a sponsor for TurboTax too, by the way. Shout out to, for sure I've done
second
QuickBooks.
One for free here.
So anyways, yeah, if you're a normal employee and you're listening to this, you don't need TrueBooks. In fact, it's probably, we can't really help you and we'll charge you way more than, you could be charged if you just did TurboTax. But if you run a business, especially if you're in real estate or if you're in e-commerce or your social media influence or whatever, like, we understand all of those things because that's what I do. And if I'm telling you that for me to achieve the success I've had and to continue growing at the rate I want to grow going forward, that I need, a team. Like, in fact, my team started out as just Matt, right? My team is a lot bigger than Matt now,
We have 4 people with their hands in the pot now that are helping and filling in.
Yeah, I have like literally a whole staff at TrueBooks.
And that's just accounting. When I say 4 people, obviously there's way more than 4 people within these organizations. But yeah, it shows you that it's back-end work. It's busy work. It's not fun work, but it's so crucial to business.
Well, and I think too, a lot of people, they're cheap. So like,
that's what I was trying to get at too. It's like, most people don't want to cough up the money for an accountant, but going back and looking back at it, you need it.
Well, no, it has even nothing to do with an accountant. Most people are just cheap when it comes to hiring in general. And, you asked like, how can you run all these companies and do all this stuff? It's because I ain't cheap. Like, I'm freaking very generous with how I pay people. And the trade-off is that you just need to do what you're supposed to do. I ain't going to babysit you. I'm going to pay you well because I think you're top talent. Don't ask me for friggin', dumb questions or what you should be doing, right? And in turn, it's allowed me to gain my time back and make more money. It's actually one of the core values of the Wealthy Way, delegate to elevate. There's a section in the course talking about that. Like, you should be delegating in all aspects of your life, not just as a business owner, right? Like, you first need to understand what your time is worth. Okay. If your time is worth $10 an hour or 100 or 1,000, okay, you got to know. And if you don't know, it's pretty simple. Just take how much you made last year and divide it by how many hours you worked. That's what your time is worth. Okay. So let's just say your time is worth $100 an hour. Like, you're a beast, right? Well, do you still mow your lawn? Do you, make your food? Do you do these things, right? Like, if you do those things, that's fine. But those are hours that are worth $10 an hour. And you're choosing to do those. Whereas extremely wealthy people don't do that. Because we all know there's only one limited resource in the world. It's time. So if I have the same 24 hours Matt has and you have and everyone else has, if I waste 5 of them every day doing $10 an hour task, that's not putting me ahead, right? What puts me ahead is doing $1,000 plus hour task every day. And as long as I can either stay at my task, like my hourly rate of what I am worth based on what I don't make my rate, by the way. Okay.
Math creates the rate.
Yeah. The world tells me what I'm worth, at least on an hourly basis, by how much I make. Right. And so if people are willing to go golf with me for $5,000, it's not that I said I'm worth that. It's that people are willing to pay me that. I could say I'm worth $10,000, but if no one pays it, I ain't worth it. So, in the end, with time and with hiring people, you have to understand what you're worth and what you can, get someone else to do it for, because that is the only way you exponentially grow what you're doing in all aspects of life. Because, and here's the deal too, and this is what we talk about in the Wealthy Way, is like, you don't have to replace, let's just say you stop doing those 5 hours a day of meaningless task. Not meaningless, but $10 hour task, right? You're giving up the chance. You're basically giving someone else $50, right? And you have a choice. You can just be okay giving up the $50 because you don't care. And then you can go spend those 5 hours with your family, on your health, with your faith, doing some self-development, whatever, right? Or you can choose to work maybe 1 hour of those 5 and, you make the $50 back because your time is worth $50 an hour, right? So you make it back. You didn't lose anything, but now you gained 4 hours in your life to go devote to other stuff. That's exactly what I do. Like, I don't need to work every hour. Like, I'm cool making what I make and then spending my other hours just chilling in the other areas of my life.
Well, what's nice is too, ideally every year your hourly rate increases.
Yeah.
So you're kind of still working the same amount of hours, but
making more
money. And that's because as time goes, right, you gain an expertise and new opportunities. And
yeah, you get better at your craft and what you do. And I think for most people, they just are cheap. That's what it comes down. Like, they think, oh, well, I can do that. I can mow the lawn. Why am I going to pay somebody $10? And it's like, well, if you think your time's worth $10 an hour, who am I to argue with you?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, look, here's the deal too. If you're making the money you want to make and you like mowing the lawn, you're freaking.
I was just going to say, if it's for pleasure and it's what you like
Yeah,
to spend your time
like,
doing, then yeah.
that's cool. If you like
Yeah.
to cook, I'm not telling you can't cook,
Mhm.
right? I like to golf, okay? It used to not make me money, but it does now. But nonetheless, even if it didn't make me money, I would go do it, even though it doesn't make me money, because I enjoy it. So my point is, when it comes to actually making money and like hiring people to make money for you, paying people to make money for you, okay? Basically, you're paying people for their time.
Mhm.
And the easiest way to think about this too is like, okay, think about how many employees, I have. We were doing the math the other day. It was like, I don't know, like
W-2 wise, a little over 30.
Yeah, W2,
Contractor wise,
and then
we're looking at, over 200.
yeah, and so it's like, if I have 200 people working for me at 8 hours a day, that's 1,600 hours a day I've bought to go like impact the world. You want to know like how I can accomplish so much crap? I have 1,600 hours versus everyone else's
24 or
Yeah.
smaller teams, a couple hundred.
Yeah, like, dude, you can't keep up.
Yeah.
I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I still only have the 8 I'm willing to work a day.
Mm-hmm.
But I use my 8 to go get 1,600. And then eventually I'll use it to go get 100,000, right? Like, it'll just, however big it ends up becoming. But the point is, that is how exponential growth works. And to bring it all back to your original question of why don't people pay for an accountant, it's because they don't understand that concept. They think that I'll do the books myself. Why pay somebody a couple $100 a month? Because I can just do it myself. Like, okay, if you think your time is worth that, who am I to argue with you? Okay.
And I can attest, most people that have said that to us end up coming to us because it didn't work.
Yeah, you suck at it. Like,
Yeah.
that's the other thing too. Like,
Yeah.
I suck
Mhm.
at keeping books.
Yeah.
I would never pay myself to do books.
Which you would agree, it's not a good use of your time. Just like it's not a good use of my time to sit on sales calls all day. It's like, that's not what I'm good at.
Yeah. And here's the other thing too. People aren't naturally like wired this way. So if this is the first time you've ever heard this concept, I talk about it in The Wealthy Way, so download that. But you're not alone. Like 99% of the world doesn't understand this, and that's why everyone acts the same. And even you, talking to Matt, were like this when we first met. You're like, dude, I'll do the work myself. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'm like, no, fool. Like, you don't get it. Like, there's no way we can grow TrueBooks if you do everything.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I want to make the money doing it. I'm like, no, you don't get it. And
Yeah.
it took time.
Yeah, true. That's so fun. Yeah, looking back, that was that first 6-7 months. That was just, it was hard. It
Yeah.
was hard. And that's the thing too, right? Like, and it's funny, I think I'd made a post right when the team started to grow, and I made a post about just TrueBooks and like how grateful I was. That was one of the biggest things I learned and I had said, like, I see a lot of people in the tax world, they'll kind of get a couple clients here on the side, and then they end up leaving where they're at because they have 60 to 100,000 of tax work they can just kind of do from their kitchen and their underwear. And
Yeah.
it works. That's fine. You're a one-man show. You do everything yourself, and you'll make an okay living. But if you really want to scale and, do bigger numbers, it takes a team. You can't do that by yourself at all.
No one has ever done it by themselves.
You can't. And so,
And even if you were able to make a lot of money by yourself, like there are some realtors who they can go
True.
make $1 million by themselves. Like, more power to them. But that's it. Like, you're capped. That is literally.
you will hit a cap and you'll just grind yourself down, I think. There's no balance, which again, most people will say, these younger people, okay, yeah, I'm cool with no balance. I want to work, which is fine. But that only goes for a couple years before you just get completely burnt.
Well, the other part of it too is you literally have no choice but to continue working.
That is too. Yeah, you have no one else to rely on. When you stop, the business stops.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the thing,
Which, yeah, that's even a whole other topic. That was one thing I had learned from you too, that like how you were able to remove yourself by putting the right people in place to focus on social media was big. That was interesting to watch.
Yeah. Just because, look, it all goes back to time. We all have 24 hours. And so how you choose to live them is going to dictate how your life is judged at the end of your life. Like, they're like, man, that Ryan, he built a lot of businesses or whatever they judge me by, they are. But they're going to say, hopefully, like, man, but he was a good dad. He was a good husband. He gave back to, like, I don't know how he found time to do everything he did. Like, that's probably the biggest compliment that I think people could say when I die. But that's literally only because of all the daily choices I make throughout my entire life. And so I think about that a lot because, legacy and other things are very important, and how I make an impact on the world is important to me. But other people don't think like that. It's just like, what can I do today to make money? Like,
As I say, it's very short term.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of an investment. That's funny. I said something to my wife the other day. Oh, something about like doing the dishes. And I was like, be good to future Sarah. Like, I was like, right now, like, you're going to want to do the dishes now or whatever task it was, because in 20 minutes or 2 hours, you're going to think, oh, I wish I would have done that.
Well, it's funny. Like, I think it's Atomic Habits that talks about this, or it's The Compound Effect. They're both very similar books. Check them out. But they talk about this. There's always a battle between future Ryan and present Ryan. They're always fighting because present Ryan can't see all of the things that future Ryan will get if, present Ryan just does what he's supposed to do. And so most people tend to just worry about present self, right? So, because it's like the best example is if you saved whatever, right? Just talking about saving money. If you saved $100 a week out of your paycheck, right? Like, over time, you could become a millionaire just saving $100 a week for a normal person. But it's going to take a long time for that to play out. And the temptation to not just spend that $100 and enjoy it today is extremely high for most people. And so most people don't do it. They just spend the money. Same thing with food, right? Like, that if you start a diet today, you won't get skinny tomorrow, right? But if you stick with it for the next 6 months, you're going to be looking good, right? But to not, have that cookie today and to not enjoy eating out with your friends and going out and having some drinks, like, it's extremely hard to do in the present moment to get this future reward that you can't see, you can't feel, you can't touch. It's all faith. Like, yeah, this will play out well. This is where everyone has this conflict, is like future self versus present self. And if you can have faith in the present that, hey, these actions are going to be good for future Ryan, then you'll make the right actions and it'll play out. And, to bring up the social media example, that's exactly what happened. It's like, dude, I didn't have any followers. I didn't have, I'm like, but I think that these actions are going to play out for future Ryan really well.
Yeah. And they did.
And they did. But anyways, dude, it's been a good podcast. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. We didn't even plug how to get TrueBooks, but it's in a link description, TrueBooksCPA.com. You guys can schedule a call with our team. Highly suggest, like I said, don't wait 16 months from now to go file, your 2022 returns.
Don't come to us April 1st saying you need to file your taxes or to file an extension. You should get started now for sure.
Yeah, that's true too. So if you were going to come to us for your 2021 taxes, come now. Don't wait, because that's when the rush is for all the late people. Don't be the late people.
Don't be late.
Don't be the procrastinator. You want to get service, you better do it now, because you're going to be put in the back of the line if you wait, because I don't like procrastinators. And so, this is what it is.
Prioritize the people who planned.
Yeah, the planners get priority. Unless they're trying to plan too far out.
Yeah, very true. Very true, yeah. There's a balance.
There's a balance for sure. But yeah, we can help you out with your current taxes for 2021. But my biggest advice would be thinking about 2022 right now, not 16 months from now. Like, make the right decisions today for future whoever.
So that in December of 2022, you're not nervous about your tax bill.
Yeah, because you've been making the right decisions. You made more money than ever. You've, done the right things to limit your tax liability. But you can't do that if you just decide December you need to think about it. You got to think about it now. Anyways, dude, good hanging out with you again. Good podcast, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Go check out The Wealthy Way as well. Catch you on the next video. Peace. Thanks for watching The Ryan Pineda Show. If you want to work with me, head over to ryanpineda.com. You can find my courses, coaching programs, and upcoming events. We also have free resources you can download, so head over to ryanpineda.com.